So this is pretty interesting.
Bernie?
It has to do with Bernie in a way.
Okay.
So here's an article from The Intercept. Um, Entire staff of Nevada Democratic Party quits after Democratic Socialist slate won every seat. Okay, so in 2016 and in 2020, um, the progressives were able to get victories for Bernie in the primaries in Nevada.
Okay.
And so based on that, they were able to say like, okay, we want to actually play within the rules and take over the Nevada Democratic Party. So that's what happened. The very moment this happened, all of the people who worked in the Nevada Democratic Party quit. All of them. And they all took severance. They all they ended all contracts that existed with the Nevada Democratic Party. So like basically like sabotaging the incoming slate of progressive leaders who are going to be in charge now.
Wait, this is like recent?
Yeah, this just happened. March 6th.
Okay.
March 6th is when they won. So it says on March 6th, a coalition of progressive candidates backed by a local chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America took over. Oh, I shouldn't do that while I'm reading, I guess. Took over the leadership of the Nevada Democratic Party, sweeping all 5 party leadership positions in a contested election that evening. Whitmer, and they're talking about the woman who won the election to become chair of the Nevada Democratic Party. Whitmer, who had been chair of the Clark County Democratic Party, was elected chair. The establishment had prepared for the loss, having recently moved $450,000 out of the party's coffers and into the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee's account. The DSCC will put the money towards 2022 re-election bid of Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, a vulnerable first-term Democrat. Anyway, so basically what happened is they just like all the people quit. All of the people who would be working under this new progressive leadership decided that they would rather just thumb their nose at progressives instead of working with them.
And they moved all the money.
And they moved the money. Yes, exactly. So here's another
What
thing.
the heck?
Here's another thing. This is says this is from Dan Roll, who's a NV Dems person. The outgoing teams at NV Dems completely raided the accounts, farming most of that money out to big money consultants, none of whom are in Nevada. They were refusing to hand over the details for the rest. Smells fishy at best. So here's all the money.
Okay.
Just moving it. And it was all previous. It was all like in the last in like October, because they thought that they were gonna lose.
Well, okay. Okay. So what happens now?
So what happens now is the new progressive slate of people have to hire all their own new people without working with any. Well, I think it's kind of like good, because otherwise, if they're all staying in there and still trying to sabotage what you're doing, you're not going to get anything done. Like, at least in this situation, you have a clean slate.
Sure. It just like that's pretty interesting though. It's like, okay. That it just like shows more of a divide, I guess, than I would have
You're
maybe
right.
thought.
So, like, yeah, weren't they saying like Democrats and social democrats, they get along, but it just
Yeah.
explains or like shows more of the vitriol against Bernie Sanders that has been kind of like on the in the foreground, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it also, to me, this is like obvious that like the Democrats literally hate the progressives.
Yeah, that's
Democrats
what.
hate progressives so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. And this is like slightly smaller scale because it's one state, but
Hmm.
I feel like it could be like that could be for any state, for the whole country probably, that it's like that. And so yeah, that makes sense that the Democrats didn't actually let Bernie like into the, well, I know that he was a candidate for the president, but
Sure,
like
they totally kneecapped him.
yeah.
Like, there's no way that he didn't more substantially win both
Yeah.
of the primaries in the last 5 years.
It just feels like a different party at this point. And
It's a neo-fascist corporatist party. Corporations and war machine stuff.
mhm.
Like, that's what the Democrats stand for at this point.
Mhm. Hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that is.
yeah, I think like it's going to be interesting to see what more the Democrats are going to do to uh, sabotage
Because that's the thing
progressives
is that
within the
like
party.
right, like the Democrats have the control, and so they're just like never gonna let progressive Democrats, socialists, actually like be in power. Hmm. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it's super. I feel like this situation is like kind of hopeful in a way. It's also just like really illustrative of like how hopeless the rest of the situation is,
Mm-hmm.
because you could have somebody like Alexandria. Wait, what's her name?
Alexandria Ocasio Cortez.
Alexandria Ocasio
Alexandria.
Cortez. You could have someone like her who starts out like very progressive seeming, and when they get
Mm-hmm.
in, now they're unable to do any of their progressive things, and they
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
to literally exist as like a corporate mouthpiece, or else
Yeah.
they get nothing that they want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, they're just being controlled.
Yeah, it's just a control scheme. Um, and I think the Democrats, what are they good for? Democrats are great for sabotaging. Like, I feel like sabotaging is their one skill. It's almost to me like that's what you learn in the CIA. So who composes the Democrat Party? Like, who is it? A bunch of CIA agents? Could be.